Hello and welcome to another StarCraft 2 co-op video. Today I'll be making a tier list for the maps based on my experience using Abathur against props and rifts on all maps. The grades will be given based on 3 criteria. Difficulty of dealing with void rifts on that map. For Abathur, this usually isn't a problem. Difficulty of dealing with props on that map. On its own, props aren't very bad, but with everything else going on, it can get hectic. Lastly, the difficulty of the map itself. S means that it was really easy and D means it was most difficult. Let's begin with Chain of Ascension. This run was pretty easy. The rifts on this map spawn in far locations, but Deep Tunnel is a good ability. Props all go to the natural once the second hybrid area is cleared. I was able to attack the bases from an angle so that props spawning there would not go towards my army. They would go towards my base instead through the middle. I don't remember needing too many tries, but it wasn't nearly as easy as the easiest map, so this one gets an A. Cradle of Death. There's a bit of RNG here because if a rift spawns in a bad spot, not even 3 Brutas can take it out safely. There's a spot near the bottom right base where the rift that spawns is surrounded by Reavers. If I got that spot in the early game, I pretty much couldn't deal with it or had to risk losing a Brutalisk. However, once areas are cleared, rifts are more likely to spawn there, and those spots are safe from props because there will be no buildings there anymore. Speaking of props, they come from 3 angles, 4 if you count the southern 2 ramps as 2 angles. A few guardians at each spot were enough to stop all of them. The map itself was tricky because I was relying on a mainly air army but needed ground presence to protect the trucks. Viper usage was extremely important. Brutus helped with ground presence, but they often had to step away to deal with rifts. This map gets a B. Dead of Night. What a nightmare. If you've never seen Void Rifts on Dead of Night, you're missing out on an insanely buffed mutator. Their spawn points ignore the infested walking around them, so many of them end up in locations that are close to a trail of infested walking by. Symbiotes will often attack other enemies rather than the rift, slowing down the clearing speed. Rifts also spawn near huts, which if hit at night spawn infested. I didn't realize that I couldn't use my usual method of clearing rifts because rifts at night were just so different from rifts during the day. At night, I had to either gang up on the rifts with 3 Brutalists instead of 1-1-1, or I had to just leave them alone until daytime. Props are also insane because they walk alongside the infested. Vipers are absolutely necessary to prevent them from eating everything. Toxic nests get trampled by the infested, so they're not 100% reliable against props. I actually got 3 Vipers with max biomass before getting Leviathans, which delayed clearing by a lot. The locusts that spawn from dead infested also get turned into props. Very, very difficult. D tier. Lock and Load. The rifts on this map can be pretty ridiculous when they spawn near the bonus or between static defense structures. Aside from that, the props all go to the natural, so it's pretty easy to defend. It's not hard to just fly out of their way and clear other parts of the map. However, because pretty much every part of the map is along the path of the props, I couldn't use spines nor mass roaches to spend my minerals and reduce the burden of the Brutalists. This also took a few tries, perhaps because it was sometimes hard to get reinforcements to join up with the main group. I put this map in B. Minor evac. Nothing special about the rifts. The props, though. Clear the ships at 6 o'clock and to the right of the expo so that all the toxic nests and guardians can defend at the top. Despite the low number of buildings on this map, full clearing took much longer than expected. I had a bit of trouble on this map even though I don't think I should have. I put this in B as well. Missed opportunities. Some of the rifts are far, often along the path of a prop, so it's important to stay vigilant. The props will all come from the top and head towards my guardian camp at the second area. This allowed me to mass spines near the bonus to get some free rift kills. The map itself was a bit challenging because I had to defend the bots while props often walked by. With all these factors in mind, I put MO in B. Mal Warfare was pretty easy, perhaps because I had quite a bit of experience by the time I got around to this map. The rifts can be far, but they're often away from where props spawn. After clearing the first bonus, all the props came from the right side around the bend, so it was easy to park guardians and spam toxic nests to defend against them. Vipers were needed in the late game because the props walked near Arana. By that point, I pretty much had map control and just focused on the objective, so props near Arana couldn't get me. A tier for this one. Oblivion Express. Some of the rifts spawn in the bases, so I needed 3 Brutas to clear them safely, but being near buildings was dangerous because props spawned from them. The good thing about props is that if they went along the top, I could get free hits on them from the high ground. However, I couldn't expo because they would often go up towards the natural instead of towards my main where my army was waiting, and I often didn't have enough units to defend. I opted for 1 base instead, which meant I couldn't mass guardians. I also hate using Vipers and Ravagers together, especially since I didn't have enough hotkeys for all these things. As a result, I had to be very careful when props crossed the train tracks while a train was in motion. This map was quite difficult, so it gets a C. Part and parcel. The original. The rifts spawn in far locations sometimes, but nothing crazy for Abathur. The props all go to the center from the right side once the left side has been cleared. This makes prop defense pretty easy. I thought about the mass roach mineral dump strategy a bit too late, so I didn't use it here, but it definitely would have been helpful for clearing rifts without making props change their path. The OG gets a B. Rifts to Core Hall. The map itself is easy. The rifts spawn in mostly safe locations like ESO Island. I defended the props in the center, so all the rifts that spawned behind me were basically free. I just needed a Viper and a ton of toxic nests and guardians to ensure that props wouldn't get me. A tier. Scythe of Amon, the only run that took me 1 try. The rifts don't spawn in any crazy places, the props come from 2 angles, and since there's a long distance between the closest buildings and the bases, I had plenty of time to prepare for them. There are also few buildings near slivers, so that meant no surprise props either. S tier. Temple. I 100% underestimated this map. There are only so many places that rifts can spawn, right? Easy. There are so few buildings on the map, so I can full clear the map quickly, right? Wrong. The rifts spawn along the path of enemies, so I can't clear them immediately if a group is waiting nearby. Rifts also spawn near the temple, so those have to be dealt with or else trickles will attack the temple. The rifts also delay clearing a lot. The map itself is difficult because the attacks are relentless, so there's very little time to actually clear. Oh, and unless the enemy is Zerg, it's probably impossible to get a Brutalist to deal with the first waves. Even after succeeding, I tried again a few times to see if I could get a cleaner run because the existing successful run is like really scrappy. So I tried again a few times, but I just could not repeat that success. It's just so hard I can't do it again. One of the most difficult runs, but not as hard as Dead of Night. So C. Void Launch. Rifts on this map are mostly in safe areas, so that's good. Props will keep coming until the end of the mission, so I had to set up defenses against them. I chose to defend the 2 spawn areas with guardians, but I needed devourers as well to deal with the shuttles and the escorts as well as the attack waves. It was a bit difficult to get everything set up, so I struggled a bit on this one. B tier. Vermilion Problem. The map itself is easy, but when props are involved, things become very difficult. They often walk where crystals are, namely the top right area. Expanding is not a good idea because the props would come from multiple angles, making defense very difficult without good control. Rifts spawn in far locations and in lava, so it's not always possible to clear them as soon as they spawn. As a result, I had to basically 1 base the entire mission and transport workers using overlords to the crystals. It was a rough mutation, so it gets a C. Void Thrashing. Rifts mostly spawn in safe areas except for 1 spot in the 3rd area and when they spawn near the Archangel. Props are easy to deal with because it's pretty easy to clear the entire left side and then the entire right side. The map itself is pretty fast paced, but luckily Abathur can get 6 ultimate evils pretty quickly as well, thanks to all those enemies in each encampment. After clearing the left side, I could spend my minerals on spines to get free kills without having to worry about props. A tier. And these are all the rankings once again. I learned a lot from doing this challenge. I was actually inspired to do this because a high-level Abathur main in the Chinese server had attempted this, but stopped short because certain maps were too difficult. I'm glad to be able to pick up the rest and complete the all clear. And that's it for this video. Like and subscribe if you agree with the rankings. Comment your thoughts down below. Thanks to all the members who are supporting me. If you would like to join the squad, check out the link in the description. And while you're here, why don't you check out this tier list on map difficulty? See you there!